Hey y'all, and welcome to my channel. So I'm packing for my trip to LA, and I decide that I need bags for my shoes. I mean, sure, you can stick your shoes in a plastic bag in your suitcase, or you can just throw your shoes in a suitcase. But why not make some cute bags? So I've got one I've just made here, a cute little drawstring bag. And then here's another one that I just made, just needs the drawstring in him. So here's a quick and fun way to make drawstring bags. Now I'm using fat quarters that, like this one here, I actually got these at Dollar Tree. All of these that I've used so far, I just picked these up at Dollar Tree. No matter what size bag you want, it's the same to make it. So if you have smaller shoes, you can fold it in half, and just sew up. You just have to basically sew up your rectangle or your square on 3 sides and leave the top open is basically what you're doing. So you can use bandanas, you can use old t-shirts, old clothing, whatever you have. You can use, say, like a fat quarter like I am. You can cut it down to make it smaller if you want. Whatever size you want. Basically, sewing it's going to be the same. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you press your fabric so that it is nice and flat. So then once you do that, we'll go on to the pinning and marking. All right, so I've ironed my pieces. Now there are tons of different ways to make little drawstring bags. I'm choosing this way because I think it's the easiest and simplest, because all you're gonna need is your fabric and then whatever string you want to use for your drawstring. You can use cord, you can use ribbon, shoestring, whatever you need. So you're going to want your 2 pieces of fabric right sides together. If your edges are all wonky and stuff, I would recommend straightening them up. Make sure that your piece is cut to the dimensions you want. And then from the top edge, you're basically going to sew all the way down one side, all the way across the bottom, and all the way up the other side. I'm just sewing with a 3/8 inch seam allowance because that's the width of Hello Twix. That's the width of my presser foot. You can do a 1/4 inch seam allowance if you want, or 1/2 inch, whatever you want. Now, for your casing at your top, no matter what size bag you're going to do, your top casing is going to be the same. So from your top edge, so here's the top, here's one side. So from your top edge, you're going to measure down 1 3/4 inches, and you want to mark it with a pen or water erasable pen, something like that. And then from that mark, you want to measure down another 1/2 inch and put a pin. So you should have 2 pins like this. 1 3/4 inch from this edge, and then 1/2 inch there. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Here's your top edge, here's your other side of your bag. Measure down 1 3/4 inches, put a pin, measure down 1/2 inch, put a pin or a mark, okay? So when you sew, you want to start at your top edge of your bag. You're going to sew whatever seam allowance you choose down to your first pin and do a back track or secure your threads. You're going to skip the 1/2 inch and then continue sewing all the way around your bag until you come up upon the other side. You'll stop sewing at your first pin and secure your threads, skip the stitching in the 1/2 inch, and then stitch all the way up, okay? So I'm gonna go do that, and then we'll move on. All right, so now I have sewn it. I'll show you here. Of course, I used white thread, so I've sewn from the edge down to the 1 3/4, skip stitching between then and there, started back up there, went all the way down to the corner, all the way across to the bottom, and all the way back up, stopped right there, skipped 1/2 inch, went up there. And yes, I did make it a little bit smaller. Now, what you want to do is right where the stitching started and stopped, make little clips just up to your thread, but make sure you don't go into your thread. Like that. Now, I'm going to finish this edge here from below the stitching all the way around to the other side. I'm just going to run it through my serger real quick. You can leave it, you can bind it, you can zigzag it, whatever you want. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll be ready for the casing at the top. All right, so I've serged around my edge. So now we're going to turn under the top. I'm going to just open up my seam right there, and I'm going to turn under the raw edge on the top by 1/2 inch. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way around. And then give it a good press with your iron. And then once you've pressed it, oh, look who's back. Once you've pressed it, then you're going to turn it under again with 1 inch. And that's going to take you down below that little spot where you didn't do any stitching. And then you're going to do that all the way around. Basically, turning it under that 1/2 inch just encloses the raw edge for you. And then give it another press. So there's your casing. So now once you have pressed it all down, you're just going to go and sew like I did on this one. I just sewed close to the pressing edge that I did there, and then I just went ahead and did another one about 1/4 inch from the fold at the top. That one's not necessary. I just kind of like the way it looks. So then basically you'll have your casing like that with an opening on each seam that you can slide your cord through. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this one, get everything pinned, go ahead and do my 2 rows of stitching, and then we will put the cord in. All right, so now I've got my bag. I've turned it inside out, carefully pushed out my corners, and there's my bag. I have my 2 rows of stitching down like that, and there's my casing. So now the amount of cord you need is just going to depend on how big your bag is. You basically need 2 pieces of cord, measure all the way around your bag, and then add about 4 to 5 inches. So all the way around your bag, and then 4 to 5 inches. And that's going to be how long you need your cording. Now, if you're using cording like this that unravels, get a little piece of Scotch tape and wrap it around. All right, so no Twix, that's Mama's cording. So there's one piece. And let's try not to knot. I'm just using this nylon cording. I think it's 1/8 of an inch wide. You just want to make sure that whatever you use will fit in your casing, and you don't want it to fit tightly. You want it to have some wiggle room in there. Here, you can have that piece to play with. All right, so once you have your 2 pieces of cord, each one the width of your top plus 4 to 5 inches, you're going to want to get a safety pin, which I had, and I'm sure Twix knocked it on the floor, so let me get my safety pin. All right, so I've got my safety pin, and I am just going to pin, I'm going to do it like right below the tape on there, through my cord. I'm going to start on 1 seam allowance and through the opening, and I'm just going to run my cord all the way around and come back out on this side, just like you would run elastic through a waistband or something like that. Just run that 1 piece of cord all the way through. All right, so I've gone all the way around back to where I started. And, well, my little piece of fabric I think is facing the wrong way, but there we go. Pull it back out. So you have to have enough cord that it will lay flat, and then there'll be enough then for you to knot the ends. And then on something like this, to keep it from fraying, I mean, you can keep the tape on it, or you can melt it with a lighter, use fray check, clear nail polish, something like that. Okay, you're going to do the same exact thing with your second piece of cord, but you're going to start and finish on the other side. So essentially when you're done, you'll have 2 cords through your casing and you'll have it knotted on both sides. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start on the opposite side, run it through, all the way back around, pull it out, and knot it. All right, so now I've got both through, so I've got a knot on both sides, and just like that, you pull both the knots, and there's your drawstring bag. Takes very little time to make. Again, you can make them in whatever size you want, and hope you'll give it a try. Use some scrap fabric, old clothing, whatever you have on hand, and use them as shoe bags or party favors, or hey, sky's the limit on that. So have fun and happy sewing.